Hello, my dear students. Welcome to our lesson today, in which we are going to deal with grammar. Grammar from unit number 7, in which we have two very important aspects to analyze here. Okay, so I'm going to share right now with you my presentation for this unit. Okay, so here it is. I just want you to follow my ideas on this presentation. And then you can also practice at the end what we are going to explain right now, all right? So first of all, I just want you to analyze what we have in this, let's say, uh, analysis, okay? So we have here a very important thing that we have to talk about. That is the passive reporting verbs. Those verbs that we use for certain, let's say, occasions, like those that we have here. Sorry. It was agreed to postpone any final decision. So notice that we have here something. It was agreed to postpone any final decision. Similar to this one, we have something here. It is hoped that the market, okay, or it was suggested that, or it is expected that. So notice that in all those sentences, we have a passive voice verb, okay, reporting an action. Then we also have other, let's say, sentences in which we have another subject, not it, but another subject, like our customers are believed to approve of the new product, or another meeting is thought to be planned for next year. Well, this is our first activity concerning grammar unit number 7, okay? Well, we are going to talk about the passive voice here, and that's why we had to explain that the passive voice, it's made when we use the verb be into whatever tense we need, and then we add the past participle of the main verb. For regular verbs, we just use the past participle adding ed to the main verb. And when it is irregular, okay, well, in those cases, we had to use the past participle that corresponds to that verb, okay? For instance, when we say play, it is regular, we can use played. But when we use no, it is irregular, we had to use none. You know that. So notice that the simple present could be inactive. I make a cake. I am the subject. I am the person who is doing that action, making a cake. But if I want to avoid the use of the subject, I will say a cake is made. That is, I will use the object of the verb in the place of a subject in the passive voice. And then I will use this structure that you know, the form of the verb be and the past participle of the main verb. And notice that it was made by me, but by me, it's not so important to be said in this structure, okay? Then in a present continuous, we can say, I am making a cake. And notice that we can also do the same. We can use the object of the verb, which is a cake, as the subject of the past, of the passive voice, okay? In this case, we say a cake is being made. Notice that is because it was in present, but it not only be, it was not only a sentence in present tense, but also in the continuous form, okay? And in this case, we had to make this ing into another form of be that we are adding to the sentence. And it is here, being, okay? Because after this, the only form we can use is the verb with the past participle or the verb with the ing form. The ing form of be, it's being. And after this one, there is only one chance, the past participle of the main verb. As we know, And we said it is used for the passive voice. Okay, so a cake is being made, of course, by me. It's just the same tense. The present continuous. But in this one, we have used the object of the verb in the subject place. And notice that if we want to say who have done the action, well, in that case, we will use the by construction. But it's not necessary to say that, okay, in that case. And we could also say for the past simple or any other tense, it's just as examples of those, let's say, analysis in the active and passive voices. Well, we say in the past simple, simple past, I made a cake. So that's the past action that I did. And if I want to analyze what I did and make the emphasis on the action as such, or that is the object that received that action, well, we will say a cake was made, because now the verb be is in the past, referring to the same tense that we were analyzing here. Well, you know that. You were practicing that before. I think it's enough. But what we're going to analyze here is using a different kind of verb. That is, those verbs that we always refer to them as reporting verbs. Well, normally we use these verbs in passive voice, okay? So there are verbs that can report actions or events that they do that by means of the passive contraction, okay? And these are an example of verbs doing that. There are two ways to do that. One is using it, the one that we analyzed at the beginning, it plus the passive verb, and then followed by a that clause. And this is an example. It is believed that the company was sold yesterday. Or the second form could be using the subject plus a passive verb and then the to infinitive. And it was also seen in, let's say, the exposition that I presented at the beginning. So we say the company is believed to have been sold yesterday. So notice that the idea here, it is reporting some action that happened in the past. The company have been sold yesterday, okay? But it is believed, we are not sure. So we are reporting about that event that may have happened, okay? Then that's the idea of reporting the action that had happened. And of course, in certain cases, mainly in, let's say, journalistic style, well, we are using these to report on the action that had happened, but not directly, just making the, let's say, the mood of these, let's say, prose, that is the journalistic style. Then we could also go for more analysis of the passive reporting verbs on page 168 in your book, okay? Then let's see the analysis that we had to do for these two structures. Well, first we had to emphasize that we use reporting verbs in the passive. Number one, when we do not know or we cannot verify the source of the information. Number two, when we assume that the reader or the listener is not interested in who the agent of the action is, okay? And number three, when the agent or source of that action is obvious. We don't have to make, let's say, any mentioning of the, let's say, doer of the action. It's obvious from the context. Then the structure is very common in formal writing. Remember what I said, it's mainly used in journalistic style. For instance, in newspapers, articles, in academic essays, and business documents, okay? But in certain cases, we can also use them in speaking context, okay? Then let's see which are the different, let's say, examples we have here. To use, number one, the it plus the passive verb plus the that clause. Then we have here, it is believed that the painting was sold to a private art collector for 35 million. Notice that we have used here, it is believed, one verb that is used to report on an action, and the action as such is here. Something was sold, in that case, a painting, okay? But we are not saying that that happened. We are saying that it is believed, okay? So we are reporting on that action, okay? Then reporting verbs that may follow this structure are these: agree, allege, announce, assume, believe, claim, consider, decide, estimate, expect, fear, hope, know, presume, report, say, suggest. Had a small, let's say, problem here concerning connection, but I am back once again. Let's see if we can continue with the passive reporting verbs, okay? Then let me try to get into, let's say, the page we were analyzing, and I'm going to share once again that presentation, okay? Notice that we were talking about the use of this structure that we normally call the passive reporting verbs. And of course, we were analyzing some examples on why and how we are using them in our, let's say, commonly use of the language. But remember what I said, most of the time we use that for, let's say, writing reasons, okay? So probably because we want to write an essay, or perhaps we need to write something formal, and then we use this structure like the journalists do, okay? So I was talking about the different verbs that we may use, and this is the whole group. Then in the present, we will say it is thought. Notice that it's the same structure for the passive voice. The verb be plus the past participle of the main verb, in this case, one verb that corresponds to the reporting verbs. And thought, which is the past participle of think, okay, it's used here with that, which is the whole structure that we were analyzing. It is thought that the more people shop online than ever before. Notice that it is thought right now. And when we say it is believed that the government is considering an increase in tax, it's also referring to an action that it is happening right now. So the idea of the reporting verb, it's, let's say, making emphasis at the present moment. But in other cases, we may refer to the past, and in that case, we say it with the use of the passive voice construction using the verb be in the past, or using the main verb, okay, in the action we are making emphasis or reporting, we use the past participle and the past perfect, okay? Then we can say, for instance, it was agreed that no final decision would be taken at this stage. Okay, it was agreed in the past. Notice that it was not something that refers to this present moment. Or in the second case, when we say it wasn't reported that anyone had resigned over the mistake. So in this case, it wasn't reported at that time in the past that anyone had resigned, of course, prior to the moment we are reporting over the mistake. That's why we are using the past perfect to make that you know, let's say, correspondence to the moment in which something we are making any reference started and another action that also happened in the past. Okay, then those are the two possibilities in the case of the reporting verbs. But let's see when we are using the second structure. The second structure, it's the subject plus the passive verb plus a to infinitive, or using the to with a base form. In that case, we say the company is believed to have been sold for 20,000, I'm sorry, for 20 million, okay, dollars. Notice that here we are using the verb to be and the main, well, the reporting verb with ed, that is the past participle, and then we have used the to infinitive with have, but we also have here, let's say, a structure for a passive voice. So to have been sold, that corresponds to, let's say, an infinitive in the passive voice with be and sold. So have been sold is the to base form together, everything. The main action, it's something has been sold, okay? But who sold that? The company, okay? Somebody in the company, okay? Somebody in the company sold the company for $20 million, okay? Then it is not relevant to mention the person who have sold that company, okay? Or perhaps it's obvious if we are talking about a given company. Then we could also say it in this case like this: the president is believed to be considering the new proposals. In this case, we are using the be form and then ing. It means that the base form is using, let's say, a progress analysis. That is, the president is believed right now to be considering for a given period of time the new proposals, okay? Then in the first one, the winner, I'm sorry, I didn't say the first one. The winner of the lottery is thought to live in the northwest of the country. It's just the action that we are mentioning, to live in the northwest of the country, which is permanent. So it is thought to live in that part, okay? And in the second, as I said, this happens during a period of time to be considering the new proposals, okay? And when we refer using this structure to the past, notice that we could also use the present in the reporting verb. So we can say 10,000 people are known to have taken part in the celebrations. Why? Just because the to base form is using a past, I mean a present perfect model. In that case, to have taken, that is with a perfectiveness clear in the analysis of the sentence. Then 10,000 people are known right now to have taken part in the celebration, something, sorry, something that had happened in the past, okay? Or we could also use the past form in the verb be, like in this one, no one was thought to have been injured. And of course, the main action, as you can see, using the to base form, could be in the present perfect tense, And the present perfect tense here, it's also in the passive form, okay? Then the future case. Well, in the future, let's say, analysis, we will say the new brand, the new branch, not brand, but the new branch is expected to open in January. Notice that concerning the structure, it seems to be present, but at the end, it's not for now. It's not analyzing this present moment. It's for a coming, let's say, month. Obviously, not in January because we are right now in January, but it could be the new branch is expected to open in February, in March, in another month, okay? Then the king is said to approve of the plan. That is, the king is said to approve of the plan. In that case, of course, we are thinking about, or we are reporting about an action that it's going to happen. It's going to, let's say, taking part, it's going to be taking part in the future. Now, notice how we use the passive reporting verb in the two cases, with the it form and with the subject together with the passive verb and the two infinitive, okay? Then we have here the two examples. It is known that there are still problems with the design, or there are known to be small problems with the design. Well, that's it. That's the first analysis that I wanted you know properly for this, let's say, lesson. But there is another, let's say, grammatical structure that we have to analyze, and it is very, very simple. We use it as well in Spanish, and it is nominalization. Of course, nominalization, it seems to be from name, no? But it's to make a word to be a noun, okay? So, for instance, when we say explain, adding shun, we say explanation. Appear, adding ends, we say appearance. Careless, adding ness, we just say carelessness, okay? So in those cases, the verbs explain and appear could be explanation or appearance. But what about carelessness? Carelessness is a noun that comes from a different type of verb, careless, like careful, okay? Then let's see, because we have here two different forms, that is the verb and the adjective that may produce nouns in the language. Well, nominalization, as I have said, is when you form nouns from other parts of a speech, especially from verbs and adjectives. And these are the examples. Well, in these pictures, you can see, please find my application for the post of assistant manager. So application, it comes from the verb applied, which is used in the second example or the second picture, in which we say, so tell me why you've applied for this job. You have applied for this job, okay? Well, it's simple. We just say that nominalization, no, it's to form nouns from verbs or adjectives, mainly from verbs and adjectives. They are not the only cases. We will see some other cases right now. But we often use nominalization in more formal text, like reports, emails, letters, okay, sometimes essays that we have to write, or formal presentations that we have to, let's say, do in front of some important people. Then we may say, I apply for the job, And then please find attached my application for the post. Notice that in the two cases, we have used applied and application. They have a common root, but the second case is, of course, more formal than the second. I applied for the job. It's normal. And in the second, please find attached my application for the post is a little bit more formal. In the second case, we have the same. Did you receive my letter? That's a question in which we use the verb receive. But in the answer, we have here, please acknowledge receipt of this letter. Notice that receipt is the noun that comes from the verb receive. Then when we use an adjective to make a noun, well, we can say, for instance, I am pleased by your interest. Pleased, that's an adjective. And it could be as a nominalization when you say, I would like to express my pleasure at your interest. And the same happens in this second analysis. I appreciate your interest. I'd like to express my appreciation for your interest. Okay, well, I'm not sure about the second example I wrote here. Okay, just a second, because appreciate, it's not an adjective, it's a noun. And appreciation is, of course, the noun. Then, when we nominalize, we often add a preposition after the noun, such as receipt of or appreciation for, okay? That's important. But notice that we have used a lot of suffixes in those cases to form the nouns we are creating. And I said there are other forms of nominalization. That's when we use nouns to replace relative pronouns, such as who, when, why, what, and where. For instance, I don't know why they didn't come. And I would say, I don't know the reason, because why refers to a given reason, okay? I don't know the reason for their absence. The reason is a noun that comes from why. So there is, let's say, a correspondence between the relative pronoun and that noun that we use to refer to it. In the case of where, for instance, you can say, can you tell me where you are? We may replace that. Instead of saying where, we can say, can you tell me your location? Simple, you see, location seems to be the replaced word for where. We can also say, I can't remember when it happened. I can't remember the occasion or the time of that event. So notice that in those cases, the time or the occasion refers to when. Another example, does the journalist know who did it? It could be replaced by, does the journalist know the identity of the person? So in this case, we are talking about that person. I couldn't tell you how it was done. So now I am talking about the manner. I am using how. I couldn't tell you the method that was used. And finally, I don't know what the film is about. I don't know the plot of the film. Is that in those cases, we had substituted, let's say, relative pronouns for a given noun that corresponds to, let's say, those relative pronouns, okay? Then I am just letting you to practice. That's why you can see it in the presentation, two different exercises. The first one is to use both analysis we had made concerning the reporting passive verbs in these sentences. You have one sentence here, and you will change that into the two possible ways. For instance, the company was sold off for over $1 million. Using believe, we can say it is believed that the company was sold off for over $1 million. Or in the case of using the subject, we can say the company is believed to have been sold off for over $1 million. So notice that the two examples we explained here could be in this exercise. So I think it could be a very good activity. And the second one that you had to do for our next meeting, it's just this one. Make a list of some family words, those containing the same root, in which you can nominalize a word from a verb or an adjective. For instance, those examples we had mentioned here, we can say from a verb, then you copy in number 1, okay? You can write, for instance, let's say the one we said, receive, and the noun could be received. And an adjective, you can use promised, and then the noun promised. Those are the examples we have here. Notice that there are lots of possible answers, but I will let you practice, and we will see this in our lesson this Sunday. I'll see you then. Goodbye and practice. I'm going to stop right now this presentation, and you will just go back to our presentation in the platform so that you may do it is in one, let's say, paper or just in a notebook, okay? Then I stop doing this presentation, and I'll see you next Sunday, okay?